Thank you for joining us this morning. As I said, this is Cadcorp's webinar titled Introducing Cadcorp SIS WebMap for Power BI. Before we begin this morning, just a couple of things to let you know about. We will send you the recording after the webinar this morning, so don't worry too much about taking too many notes. We'll send you a recording of it so you can listen again at your leisure following the session. You are all on mute this morning, so we can't hear you. So don't worry about muting your own microphone. You should only be able to hear us. If you have any questions, please use the questions panel. You should see that in the webinar interface. You should be able to drop that down and ask questions throughout the webinar, and we really encourage you to do that. We really want to hear from you and hear what you've got to say. So do ask questions throughout, and we'll have some time at the end to run through those and answer those questions for you. We will have a survey at the end of the webinar today. So what that'll mean when the webinar ends, a short survey will pop up, just a couple of questions. We really appreciate your feedback. We really want to continue to deliver good, relevant webinars, so that feedback's really important to us. So please do complete that. My name is Fergus Craig. My title is Business Development Manager here at Cadcorp. I mainly work with our housing customers, our insurance customers, and other land and property customers as well. I'm going to be presenting together with my colleague Ian Usher. Ian is head of pre-sales. Ian's my technical colleague. Ian is great at demonstrating Cadcorp SIS software, and he's going to be providing the demonstration today. Just to review the agenda before we start, we're going to introduce Cadcorp, let you know who we are and what we do, and then we're going to start discussing the technology that builds up this Cadcorp SIS WebMap for Power BI component. We'll introduce Cadcorp SIS WebMap, we'll talk a little bit about Power BI, and then we'll discuss the features of that integration, how it all fits together. I'll then hand over to my colleague Ian Usher, who will provide the demonstration. Ian has got a really good demonstration prepared of showing how you can connect the technology, different examples of how different industry sectors may utilize this integration, and just run through some of those benefits for you as well. Following that, I will talk to you about what we plan to do in the future, some extra features that we want to include in future versions, and we encourage you to get in touch if you like what you see today, or if you have any other questions, or if you want any more information. Please do get in touch with Cadcorp, and I'll include the details and the best way for you to do that at that time. After that, we'll run through your questions. So any questions you have throughout the webinar, as I said, fill in the question panel, the question box in the webinar interface, and we'll run through those at the end. So let's start. So about Cadcorp, we are a UK-based software development company. We're based in Stevenage in Hertfordshire. We've been developing GIS software since 1995, so we have a lot of experience creating this technology. GIS is Geographical Information System, and that is technology that enables visualization and capabilities to deal with spatial data. So anything with a location on the Earth's surface, any data that includes that kind of information, that kind of data, then GIS has the capability to utilize it, and we'll run through some of those examples today. So Cadcorp create the spatial information system. We call that Cadcorp SIS. And Cadcorp SIS provides web, mobile, and desktop mapping applications. We work with lots of different sectors. The ones listed here are probably the main sectors that we work with: housing, government, central government and local government, that is, emergency services, insurance companies, and infrastructure organisations as well. But there's lots of organisations that fall outside of these areas that we work with. In the UK, we work with our customers directly, but we also have partners in the UK that utilise Cadcorp technology and deploy that to our customers in the UK. And throughout the rest of the world, in Europe and around the rest of the world, we have partners who utilize Cadcorp technology and enable that for their customers as well. So we focus on that software development of a Cadcorp SIS technology, and for our UK customers, we can implement that, we can train and install the applications to ensure you get up and running as required. So we want this session to be interactive, and we're really keen to hear from you. So first of all, we're going to have a poll, and that's titled, sorry, the question is, does your organization use Microsoft Power BI? So you should see that question in front of you now. If you could answer yes or no, it'd be really good to get your feedback. We can see those responses coming in now, so that's good. You can obviously hear us and see us, which is great. We'll just wait a couple more seconds to let everybody click on that response. Excellent. So that's really interesting. So, so about 70% of you have said yes, your organization does use Microsoft Power BI. So that's really interesting because there's a lot of capabilities, and we'll come on to that in a second. So hopefully you'll find today's webinar really useful. First of all, I want to introduce the technology behind this integration. Some of you will already be familiar with Cadcorp SIS WebMap, but I just want to cover this to ensure that everybody has this information. So, as I mentioned, SIS is the Spatial Information System, and that provides mobile, desktop, and web mapping applications. Cadcorp SIS WebMap is a web mapping application, and it provides interactive and dynamic access to geographical information. So any GIS data or any data that you can relate to a spatial location can be utilized within Cadcorp SIS WebMap. That could be GIS overlays. It gives capability for end users of the application to query the data, to report on the data, and to visualize the geographical information as well. Now, the technology can either be cloud hosted and managed by Cadcorp, or it can be installed locally on your own infrastructure as well. And essentially, geographical information provides knowledge to improve your decision-making process. If you don't have Cadcorp SIS WebMap, that's absolutely fine. We've got a couple of options for you just to consider if you want to look at utilizing the Cadcorp SIS WebMap for Power BI. The first option is, well, Cadcorp SIS WebMap has lots of advantages that might be appropriate for your business in addition to the Power BI element of it. So we're really keen to hear from you further. It may well help support your business case for the implementation of Cadcorp SIS WebMap, having this extra capability of the integration with Power BI. And the second option is Cadcorp can provide a hosted package that includes the elements of Cadcorp SIS WebMap and the Power BI visualization. So there's an option there to include just the relevant bits of Cadcorp SIS WebMap together with the Power BI elements to get you up and running. Power BI is a business intelligence application. It enables interactive visualizations of data. It's really powerful, and the reason it's so powerful is in its simplicity. When reports are created and distributed within or externally to organization, it gives the capability of being able to utilize graphs and charts and other visualizations, as you can see in the screenshot, to really get the point across and to get people to understand the data. So it's a really powerful tool due to its simple interface. It's widely accessible, it's a Microsoft application, and there's a good chance if you don't already utilize it, you might well have access to it anyway. It can either be cloud hosted or desktop based, and an inputs, there's a big long list of inputs. There's lots of different ways you can get data into Microsoft Power BI. They include Microsoft Excel, CSV, Microsoft SQL Server databases, Postgres or PostGIS. So if you store data in those types of formats, which a lot of Cadcorp customers will already do, then you can connect Microsoft Power BI to those to bring data in. So Cadcorp SIS WebMap for Power BI is a web map, enables the web map to be embedded within a Power BI report and enables the integration between your corporate mapping served by Cadcorp SIS WebMap within this visualization. So it's an integration between the two platforms. The spatial point data is interactive with the Power BI visuals, which you'll see in the demonstration shortly, which is really key, that interaction between the relevant visualizations of the data. So WebMap overlays, so overlays that you might already have existing in Cadcorp SIS WebMap, can provide additional context for the business data within Power BI. So if you have any hotspots or any other data, that can all be dropped into the background, which is a great capability. The way that we deploy this is provided via a licensed custom visual. So Cadcorp can provide you with a custom visual which you can drop into Power BI, as Ian will show you in just a minute. So that's how you get access to this technology. So some of the features of the integration are, one of the key ones is that numerous coordinate reference systems are supported within this technology. If you're familiar with Cadcorp technology, Cadcorp SIS supports lots of coordinate reference systems, and this is all brought across in this integration. The key thing to consider, especially for customers, for people in the UK, is that Ordnance Survey base map data is supported in this. So you might have invested in, or you might have access to via the PSMA master map topographic layer data, which is a really detailed building outline level data set from the Ordnance Survey, which you might be utilizing in other GIS or web map deployments around the organization. That level of detail can be brought into the Microsoft, so the web map for Power BI integration, which is a really great benefit. So all that Ordnance Survey base map data you've got can be brought across and visualized. That's one of the advantages of the OSGB coordinate reference system, but equally WGS84 or other coordinate reference systems that are supported by Cadcorp SIS technology can be utilized in this environment as well. So some of the features, the map marker, as you can see in the screenshot here, that can be a variety of different colors that you can choose from to represent your data. The mouse position can include coordinate tracking, so you can see the coordinates of where the mouse is on the map. Pan and zoom controls to be included, and this is one of the other really key features, that it'll have the capability to have the layer control in there. So that means that the end user, the person visualizing the report, which is integrated web map, has the capability to turn on and off overlays. So your own spatial data can be turned on and off in the background of the web map behind the data that the Power BI integration is utilizing. And map tips are also included as well. So you can hover over points to see the attributes, see the data you hold against that location, and hyperlinks can be included in that as well. So you can link off to other reports, other documents, other websites from those point locations. Great. I'm going to hand over to my colleague, Ian Usher, who's going to demonstrate these to you.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the how we set up the Power BI application, and then what we've got is we have a couple of examples that have already been created that we can run through to look at the additional functionality that you get with the Cadcorp SIS WebMap for Power BI. So this will look very familiar to people that are using the Power BI application. And the first thing that we can do is we can look at adding some of our own data into it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say that we want to firstly get data. And as Fergus has said, what we can do is we can, through the Power BI application, you can connect to multiple different data sources. So as he's mentioned, SQL and PostGIS. What we're going to do today is we're going to load in a data set in a CSV file. So I'm going to click connect. What we can then do is we can look at a particular file, and I can say that we want to open that file. And then the application will do is it will then give us a preview of the data that we've got available. And what we can say is that what is really important is that we ensure that there is a coordinate reference system in coordinate reference points in the data set so we can plot these on the map. So in this example, we're using the OSGB eastern and northern, and that's because the map that we're then going to put in through the Power BI application for SIS WebMap allows us to then embed the same map into it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click load, and what we'll see on the right hand side is that we've got all of our attributes in there, and we can see these in the map. We can see these in the application. What we can then do is we can say that we want to import a Power BI visual from a file. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say that we want to import our Cadcorp SIS WebMap for Power BI into the Power BI application and click open. And it tells us that it's been added. And because it's a custom visual, it gets added to the bottom of the list. And we can see the red Cadcorp icon on the bottom there as well. So now we can start building our application that we want to use. So I'm going to say that we firstly want to click our Cadcorp WebMap, and what it'll do is it'll put the visual into the application. And then what we can then say is we can specify the east and north in. So through the options side, we can say that the application needs an X and Y for it to plot those points. So if I tick east in and tick northern, what it'll do, it's got the data in there now. And then if we go to our format, under map settings, in order to see a map, we need a service URL and a map name. And this is where the link comes into the embedded map. So that's anybody that's using an embedded map will be able to link away to the appropriate site and use that for the service URL. So I'm going to link to a site that I've got set up on my local machine, and the map name that I've got set up is embedded. So what will happen is it finds that map, and straight away what you'll see is that we've got the Ordnance Survey master map data straight into the Power BI application. What we can then do is we can add a table chart in here as well. So if I say we want to create a brand new table, and under the table, I'm just going to add in the values for our site names. And what it'll do is it'll evaluate all the site names and bring that data in. And then when we start interacting with the table, the data starts to appear on the map. So you'll see it's quite nicely zoomed into the appropriate Abbey estate that we've clicked on. And we've got 3 of our points on the map that are showing where they are located. And like I say, it's really important that it's using the master map data from Ordnance Survey. If I were to uncheck our Abbey estate, what we can then do is if we zoom out, what you'll see now is that we've got all of our points for those Camden trees data set available, and we've got them all as a red symbol. We have different functions as Fergus has talked about, and we'll have a look at some of these in more detail. But what we could also do is we can add in hover attributes. So if I say that maybe we want the site name as part of our hover attribute, if we hover over one of those points, you'll see that we've now got our attributes that show us kind of the site name that goes along with that particular site. And then under the format of that visual, if we go into map settings, we can add things in such as our pan zoom to make it easier for users to be able to zoom in and out. We've got our layer switcher, so we'll look at this in more detail later, but that if there's data that sits underneath that's coming from the embedded map, it allows us to turn data on and off as we see fit. And then the last thing is our mouse position as well. So you see now at the bottom, because I'm using the OSGB coordinate reference system, as I move my mouse around, it's actually telling me what the east and north end of that particular cursor is. And then what we can also do is, depending on what we want to see on our actual map, we can actually change the marker color as well. So for example, if I change that to blue, what you'll see is that all the markers have changed to blue quite nicely. So we've got a number of different options that allow us to do that. So that's a really simple way of setting up the Cadcorp SIS WebMap for Power BI Visual that allows you to connect to the Ordnance Survey data from a CSV file or a SQL or a PostGIS database and bring it straight into the Power BI application. And the visual that we've used we've shown can come into the desktop side of things. But what it can also do is go over to the web as well. So you're able to publish these charts and things that you're going to be producing and send them out to the web. So what we're going to show now is kind of the web side of things. So it's the same visual. There's no additional function. There's no additional visual that you need for this. And what you'll see is that we've got the map enabled, and we've got different sectors that we are just going to briefly take a quick look at. So the first one is kind of our local authorities. So in this example, we've got our local authority set up, and they're looking at a number of different planning applications over a time period, for example. And we've got our bar charts and pie charts. We've got a map in the bottom right, and we're using the OSGB map to show the information. And what it allows us to do, as Fergus said, the whole setup is all dynamic. So for example, if we clicked on all the applications that have had changes to the rear windows, all the charts change dynamically, but what happens in the bottom right is that all the points that are now only relevant to that changes to rear window show. So it's allowing us to see where all those 35 planning applications are located across the Camden area that we've got set up. What we could also do is we could use our planning officer. So if we click on a particular planning officer, the same applies. It changes all the bar charts and pie charts and things like that we've got enabled, and the counts. And then what we can also do is we can be really specific and say that I'm interested in a particular planning application, and it gives us everything that we need. So it tells us there's one planning application, it's been refused. It tells us what type it is, what the planning officer is, and we can see that one point on the map in the bottom right as well. And if we zoom in, what you'll see, because we're using the OSGB data and we're using the zoom stack, we've got a consistent map base as we zoom in, right down to kind of the master map level, which kind of gives us the detail that most local authorities will be using to see where the plan application is, and reference that against the road name or the building name or number as well. So it gives us a lot of detail in the fact of just simply embedding a map into the Power BI application. What we can then do is we can look at our fire side of things. So what we've got here is we've got a number of fires within the Camden area, and we at this time, instead of producing counts and bar charts and pie charts, we've actually used filters on the data. So this time I'm going to say that we are interested in maybe all of the fires that have taken place in 2017, where there are primary fires and the property type is flats. So now you'll see it's listed a count of 3 incidents. We've got a table that responds to them. But again, what we've got in front of us now is we've got the 3 red markers that show us where those incidents are. But then we're also able to see the yellow dots on the map, which are showing where the hydrant locations are, and then the fire station symbols for where the stations are. So we're easily able to see the relationship between the Power BI data and the embedded map data that sits on the web map as well. So that's allowing us to see how we can filter the data out. Under the police section, we've got a lot more bar charts and pie charts, and we've changed the colors of things just to make it look a lot nicer. But again, we are using the OSGB in this example. We've got the zoom stack, but what we've also done is we've created a hotspot of all the traffic accidents that have happened within the West Yorkshire area. So we can see we've got a hotspot, we've got our red markers on the map. And what's really good is you can identify patterns in the data. So if I say we're only interested in the A6 38 traffic accidents, you can see that pretty much shows where that road is taken into West Yorkshire, but then it also allows you to compare the kind of the hotspot to where those accidents are. So you can now see that actually that road isn't that bad when you compare it to the middle of Bradford and Leeds that we're gonna look at in a minute. What you can also see in this example, we've got the option to zoom in and zoom out. So we've left the functions of the zoom tool, And then what we can also do, if we wanted to, is we can actually turn that data off. So if we didn't want to see our density map, I might actually say that we want to turn that information off, and then we're only left with the points on the map. So now we can look at our M1 roads instead. And then once we've got to that location and we've seen all the bar charts change, I might say that maybe we want to turn that density map on again so we can see where it is. So it's allowing us to see brilliant spatial relationships between the Power BI data and the web map data that sits underneath. In our housing project, you might have examples of where you've got addresses within an area and you want to see the kind of the overall performance statistics of those particular housing sites. And we've got loads of counts set up. We've got gauges and we've got bar charts. But what's really good in this example is if we zoom into a particular postcode sector, so I'm interested in our CV6 where the asset type is houses, what you'll see is it filters it out quite nicely. Right underneath the data, we've got the ability to see where that data is, and we can have multiple different maps on this. So this time we've decided to choose to show kind of tree canopies, grounds maintenance, and commercial corporate ownership. So there's a lot of information that's coming through to the actual Power BI from the web map application. We can turn that data off if we want to. So I'm just turning my web map 9 data on and off so we can see how that works. But in this example, what we can also do is we can shoot off to a URL. So the point on this one has got a homeowner's guide, and I've just set up a housing association website that we can link off to. So if I click OK, what that'll do is it will go away and go straight to the L&Q website that shows us the homeowner's responsibility, for example. But that's a really powerful way of getting from a particular housing property and going straight to a particular PDF or an image or a website that links to that exact property type. And it doesn't have to be about Ordnance Survey data. So in this example, well, it doesn't have to be about the normal stack of Ordnance Survey data. So in our insurance example, what we've got red markers to show where we've had claims for floods, but what we've supported that with is the aerial photography. So people might use the aerial photography within the organization to show the data in a different format. So we've got aerial photography on there this time with the bar charts and pie charts changing. What I can do, because we've got filters, I might say that I'm only interested in those where they've got a particular postcode of NG23, and we can see how all the information changes. And then again, maybe this time I am only interested in where we've had flood data. So again, if you've had claims where people are stating that they're in a flood zone, you can easily see that this information can tell you straight away that that property is in a flood zone or not in a flood zone. But it's also filtering out the overall policies that have been within those areas, what the overall contents are and what the average contents are as well, as well as a bar chart across the bottom. And then the very last example is our Amsterdam example. So it doesn't have to be about Ordnance Survey data, as we said as Fergus said at the start. As long as the coordinate reference system that comes from your embedded map is correct and matches the CSV data or the PostGIS data that's coming into Power BI, you can use other mapping sources. So in this example, we've got the OpenStreetMap for Amsterdam. So we've got options to see the tables and the bar charts and pie charts. What I can do is I'm going to filter this data out to say that we're only interested in a year's worth of data. And I'm only interested in a particular tree type. And then what I can do is select that data. And what's really good is we've added the map tips to this one, but we've also got the ability, as we zoom in, we've scale thresholded the actual tree canopies. So now as we zoom in, we can actually see the tree canopies that are being presented from the web mapping application straight into the Power BI application. So now you can see where we've got a single tree selected, but you can see how close that is to the other trees that are within that particular area. So that kind of sums up everything from me. So as you can see, there's a lot of functionality within that Power BI visual that we are providing. You can see how it's used across different sectors, and you can also see how it's kind of links away with different maps that are available, such as the OpenStreetMap and the aerial photography that might be available as well. So what I'll do now is I will pass you back over to Fergus.
Great, thanks, Ian. So a couple of points, things that we are keen to include in future releases, in case you're wondering what the plan is for the future. There's a couple of key points that we want to include in future releases as well. The capability to use vector circle features to display that can be colored or according to the value of the attributes. So like a graduated theme or a theme in SIS desktop, that capability will hopefully be coming in the future as well. And also to interact the other way as well. As you saw from Ian's demonstration, you can interact with the map from the visuals, but we also plan to add the capability to be able to click on the features of the map and interact back with the visuals at the same time as well. So in a second, we'll go over to questions. I can see there's quite a lot of questions have come through already, which is really great. We'll try and answer as many of those as we can. Please do get in touch with us. You'll have your normal Cadcorp account manager if you're in touch with Cadcorp already. That might be me or one of my colleagues. If you're not in touch with Cadcorp, do drop us an email at sales@cadcorp.com or give us a call. We'll be pleased to answer any questions that you have. So let's have a look at the questions that I can see have been coming throughout the presentation. We have quite a lot, so that's great. We might not have time to answer them all just now, and I can see that some of them are really quite technical as well, which I'm not going to try and answer today. But those technical questions, then we'll get a response to you, and we'll respond directly rather than try to answer them just now. So one question was, can you use OpenStreetMap data within the visualization? Yes, I think Ian did demonstrate that after you asked the question actually, but yep, that is possible. Any mapping data that you use within a Cadcorp SIS WebMap environment can be used within Cadcorp SIS WebMap for Power BI. And there's a question about specific projections. Yeah, any projections that are supported within Cadcorp SIS technology can be used in this environment. You have mentioned a specific Australian projection there. We'll double check on that one and get back to you directly, if that's okay. We did have a question about an evaluation version. And yes, if you want to try out Cadcorp SIS WebMap for Power BI, we can organize a 30-day evaluation for you at no cost, and that will be for up to 100 records. So it's limited by the number of records, and it'll be for 30 days, but you'll be able to do everything that Ian's demonstrated today. So if you'd like to take us up on that offer, please do get in touch with your account manager or just with Cadcorp directly. Let's see the next question, talking about ways in which data is served into your web map application currently, and will this work within the application? Yep, if the data is within Cadcorp SIS WebMap currently, then absolutely that will be available within Cadcorp SIS WebMap for Power BI. Another question about whether it uses the SWD within WebMap. Yep, absolutely. That background data that you can toggle on and off using the overlays option, that's all built within a Cadcorp SIS SWD. For those of you who use Cadcorp technology, you'll be very familiar with that. And we have quite a few more questions coming through about how the visualization is provided and licensed. As I mentioned, it's a Cadcorp licensed visual which Cadcorp can provide to you. So there's different ways in which it can be deployed. So we're really happy to have a conversation with you directly about which way is the most appropriate for you and your organization. We're going to finish the webinar here. There are some other questions. Like I said, some of them are very technical, so we'll get back in touch with you directly with those within the next day or two. So we will respond to all questions. And like I said, please do get in touch with Cadcorp. The webinar is going to close in just a second. When it does, you'll get a few questions for the survey. Like I said, please answer those questions. We're really pleased to hear your feedback. We want to continue to provide webinars like this, and if we get good feedback, it's good to know that we should continue to do that. Thank you. Bye.